Chapter 4, verses 101 through 200. 101. Those amongst you who know about the truth of the wellspring of all origin creation. You are fighting with the weapons of the truth, love and consonance, harmony, and in peace and freedom for its cause. You, however, who are unknowing ones and unfair ones, irresponsible ones, you are fighting with the sword, and therefore with all weapons of death for the cause of evil, for the lie and untruth. But you are fighting a hopeless fight as the friends of evil, whose generalship is death and ruin and destruction. 102. Curb your hands holding the sword that you are wielding against the truth in your battle against it, because you are afraid of it and your fear grows ever greater. Truly, the laws and recommendations of the primal wellspring, creation, do not decree any fight with gavalt of weapons in order to murder. Rather, they demand love and peace, so that you may live in freedom and harmony. 103. Defer, terminate your fight against the truth, because those amongst you who fight against the truth with the sword and other weapons of death, truly your advantage, benefit, will only be slight and of short duration. Therefore it is better for you to turn to the truth and its teaching in deference, so that you no longer spread a single iota of unright. 104. Be certain, knowing that wherever you may be, that you cannot escape death, because it will befall you even though you may be inside the most strongly built tower. Therefore heed death wherever you may be, so that it seizes you in right deeds rather than unright deeds. And think at all times about death, and learn that it is unavoidable, and that you are bound to it, as is everything that lives and crawls and flies, so that you are not frightened when you stand before it, and have to leave your life. 105. And consider, if goodness that makes you glad happens to you in life or dying, that if it does not come from outside, it comes from your life conduct, as it also is if bad befalls you in life or dying and you are afraid. Truly, every one of your kind, human beings, and therefore all people will always get what they merit because of what they have earned, whether it be good or evil, if only you would understand this. 106. Whatever goodness you get, all of it comes from your good mentality, just as everything terrible that strikes you comes from your own mentality. Truly, you are yourselves your own prophets as you allot, determine yourselves in all things of your life, and announce what redounds to your benefit or harm, and for this you are your own witnesses. 107. If you direct yourselves in free determination, decision, willingly and knowingly, consciously, towards the teaching of the prophets, their teaching of the truth, their teaching of the Spirit, their teaching of the life, then you are indeed guiding yourselves towards the teaching of the laws and recommendations of the primal wellspring of all existence, creation. But if you all direct yourselves in free determination, decision, willingly and knowingly, consciously away from the truth, teaching, then you make yourselves into guardians of the untruth and evil. 108. Coerced obedience is not the guideline, leading thought of the teaching of the truth, the teaching of the Spirit, the teaching of the life. Rather, it is freedom of will in order to fathom out the truth in the freedom of will and to understand it so that it may be accepted in the freedom of will and that life may be led and managed with it. 109. Be certain, knowing that those amongst you who regard the guideline, leading thought, of the teaching of the truth as coercion, you are feigning and are swearing falsely by day that you are connected to the truth and its teaching, but at night you turn away from it and strive to slander, calumniate, and destroy it, but your reward for this will be full of disaster. It is better for you not to concoct attacks against the truth teaching, but to be honestly connected to it and build upon it, so that you may be bearers of the trust for the truth. 110. Truly, do you not want to ponder on the teaching of the prophets and on the laws and recommendations of the primal power, creation? But do you want to continue to court with the untruth despite finding innumerable contradictions in it? However, be certain, knowing that the contradictions in the untruth always change to your disadvantage and kindle a fire in your inner nature and in your admonishment conscience, on which you burn yourselves. 111. If a rumor reaches you, whether it contains peace or unpeace, joy or affliction, goodness or evil or friendliness or unfriendliness, then do not spread it, because rumors bring about enmity and hatred, and bring misery on those who are defamed. And if you bring rumors before the jurisdiction or before others who have the gavalt of command and who understand how to bring out the truth, then be aware, on your guard, that no blame falls on you yourselves, because you are propagating slander. Calumny. If you follow, spread rumors, then you will be disadvantaged in all cases, because you will not receive any kind-heartedness, love, lenience, forgiveness from those whom your rumors have been about, so that they will hound you in hatred as if evil itself were on your heels. 112. And if defamatory rumors originate about the truth and the teaching of the laws and recommendations of the primal power, creation, then confront them and fight with peaceful means for the cause of the truth, so that the rumors cease and all people of your kind, human beings, experience the truth. Only in a peaceful wise should you counter the rumors against the truth and the truth teaching, in order to rein in moderate the deeds of the rumor mongers and slanderers, calumniators of the truth and its teaching and the teaching of the true prophets. Do not impose any penal gavalt on the adversaries and the ones who have no knowledge of the truth and the truth teaching, but consider that the truth is stronger than any lie, as is taught by a true saying, aphorism, apothem, epigram, that the truth always comes to the light of the sun sooner or later. 113. Whoever intercedes in a fair, responsible, wise for the truth and for the teaching of the true prophets, for their teaching of the truth, their teaching of the Spirit, their teaching of the life, and therefore for the teaching of the laws and recommendations of the primal wellspring of all presence existence, those will get a part for their good existence, in true love and freedom in their inner nature, as well as peace and consonance, harmony. However, whoever intercedes for an unfair, irresponsible cause, those will get a part in the unfair, irresponsible cause, because the forenation from a cause and the effect equals cause and effect, is mighty over all things. 114. And if you are greeted with a wish of happiness, felicitations, then reply with an even more beautiful greeting, or if you do not like it, then at least give a simple and decent greeting in return in order to pay account in fullness, sufficiency. 115. The real truth of the wellspring of all life, creation, and of its laws and recommendations renders all lies and slanders, calumnies, worthless, and it is certain that only congregating around it is of excellence, and there is no doubt about this. Whoever, on the other hand, congregates before evil and kneels down in belief, assumptions, in gods and tin gods, or before people of your kind, human beings, who raise themselves up, make themselves great and important, and extol, identify themselves as representatives, envoys, and authorized ones, substitutes, of gods and tin gods, they are not truthful, not upright, they are far from the truth, in their knowledge and in their words. 116. Do not let it happen that you are split into two parties against those who are unknowing of the truth, against the hypocrites and unfair ones, irresponsible ones, so that you will not cast yourselves out for what the unknowing ones and hypocrites and the unfair ones, irresponsible ones, have done and continue to do, and thereby fall into ruin. And truly, whoever takes the way of ruin will not find a way to the true love, freedom, and consonance, harmony, or to the peace in their own inner nature. 117. The ones who are unknowing of the truth, the hypocrites and unfair ones, irresponsible ones, the unrighteous ones, conscienceless ones, and the ones without virtue are striving for you to be the same as them, because they have fallen prey to iniquity, unfairness, and do not want to tolerate you speaking to their admonishment, conscience. 118. Do not take ones unknowing of the truth, unrighteous ones, conscienceless ones, hypocrites or unfair ones, irresponsible ones, and ones without virtue to be your true friends if they want to make you the same as them. However, take them as friends if they want to set out on the way leading to the truth and to the teaching of the laws and recommendations of the wellspring of all wisdom, creation. But if they turn away from the way leading to the truth once again and do not realize it, then do not bring any affliction down upon them or kill, murder them, but instead be helpful to them wherever you find them, so that they recognize and understand the truth teaching and the laws and recommendations of the wellspring of all wisdom, creation, and return and become friends and helpers of the truth. 119. Do not fight with the gavalt of weapons against another people that is connected to you in a bond, and also do not fight with the gavalt of weapons against a people that is strange to you and is not connected to you through a bond, because any fight with weapons involving killing, murder, is unrightful and against the laws of love as they are given by the creation. Therefore you shall be terrified from fighting with the weapons of death and never fight against your own or against another people. And if you have to fight against your own or another people, then it shall only be done with words that you use carefully, rationally, and with true discernment, intellect, so that peace and freedom may come about, but not however battle, war, and unpeace or the spilling of blood or bloody deeds, murder, and other killing. 120. If other people of your kind, human beings, or people's gain might over you, then defend yourselves with all your fair appropriate means, but never reach for weapons in order to kill. So you shall fight against your adversaries with gewaltsam or gewaltlosigkeit, so that all of those who are against you will stay away from you and your people. Consider that the truth and righteousness, conscientiousness, peace and love as well as freedom do not permit any kind of attack or any kind of fight with deadly weapons. 121. Truly, you will find people of your kind, human beings, who wish to be protected from you and protected from their own people, and they want to live in peace with you or with their own people. But pay heed to them in watchfulness, because once they are misled again into hostility, they will plunge themselves head first into it once again. Therefore, if they do not stay away from you, and do not offer you either peace or restrain their hands in order not to be active using Gewalt, and to offer peace, then do not capture them and do not kill murder them, but strive to offer them the hand of peace and to teach them the truth. But if they continue their hostility, then repel them from yourselves wherever you find them, so that they take other ways and move away. 122. No person of your kind, human being, is entitled to kill another person of your kind, human being, except if it is done in extreme defense. And therefore everyone take care that he or she does not kill someone of your kind, human being, by accident, unattentiveness, or out of carelessness. If, however, someone of your kind, human being, is killed, murdered by accident, unattentiveness, or carelessness, man, woman, or child, then the unwanted fallibility shall be punished for a time of 3 years at a place of fulfillment of guidelines, secluded place, isolated island, after which assistance and help shall be provided to the bereaved family of the one who was killed, murdered, in the form of manual work and with silver and gold, money, financial means, according to the earlier responsibility of the one who was killed, murdered. But if the bereaved family waives the assistance and help out of mildness, then this shall be rightful. If, however, a person of your kind, human being, is deliberately, intentionally killed, murdered, for whatever reason, then the manslayer, murderer, man or woman, shall be subject to punishment by seclusion of the sexes, exclusion from society with separation of woman from man and man from woman, in a place of fulfillment of guidelines, secluded place, isolated island, with the time of punishment set at 30 years, after which the jurisdiction shall establish whether the fallible one, man or woman, has undergone a change and turned to the truth and to the laws. And if the change has come about, then freedom shall be granted again, after which assistance and help shall be provided to the bereaved family of the one who was killed, murdered, in the form of manual work and with silver and gold, money, financial means, according to the earlier responsibility of the one who was killed, murdered. But if the bereaved family waives the assistance and help out of mildness, then this shall be rightful. If, however, children are guilty of killing with malice of forethought, with intent, then they shall be subject to a punishment at a place of fulfillment of guidelines, secluded place, isolated island, for a period of time appropriate, according to their age, which shall be determined by the severity of the deed. And children are regarded as all who have not yet grown out of youth. Not yet adult equals differs from state to state. Manslayers, murderers, of any kind who deliberately, intentionally, kill people of your kind, human beings, shall be subject to the same punishment, without differentiation, of 30 years. If, however, a man, a woman, or a child kills, murders, whilst their inner world, consciousness, and their psyche is confused or sick, then they shall not be sent for punishment, but to a place for healing their confusion or illness, so that they may once again live up to their well-being and life power, as well as to the clarity of their inner world consciousness, and their psyche, following which they shall once again enjoy their freedom. If, however, healing the confusion or illness proves impossible, then they shall be made to stay in a place, corresponding clinic, psychiatric hospital, etc., for the duration of their life, for the good of their health and their safety. However, it is not given that those fallible of killing, murdering, of any kind or other nefarious ones, and villains or lawbreakers shall be harmed in their body and limbs, extremities, or in their psyche, or their inner world, consciousness, or chastised by cruelty, torture, or coerced into a confession, admission. Truly, no person of your kind, human being, is entitled to harm another person of your kind, human being, to commit cruelty, torture, on him or her, or to kill him or her. Whoever nevertheless deliberately, intentionally kills, murders, their reward shall be the fire of destruction and misery, which burns unceasingly in the admonishment. Conscience. 123. When you associate with people of your kind, fellow human beings, then only go to them. If you take the way on which you have first undertaken pertinent, thorough, proper investigations in order to discover who is the next one to whom you are turning. Therefore, first consider which words you want to choose when you meet the human being, so that you do not say to everyone who offers you a peaceful greeting that this human being is an unknowing one in the truth. 124. Truly, you are striving for the goods of earthly life, but in the teaching of the laws and recommendations of the wellspring of the life, creation, given by the teaching of the prophets is goodness and fullness. Once you were without the teaching of the truth, the teaching of the Spirit, the teaching of the life, but the true prophets poured the truth teaching over you in kind-heartedness, so that you shall be knowing in their richness. But you have forgotten all of it, because you did not want to heed the teaching. Therefore it befits you today that you undertake considerable, thorough, correct research, giving attention, so that you will once again be knowing in the teaching of the prophets and follow it. 125. Those amongst you who sit still remain inactive, although you are not infirm, and those amongst you who put chattels and silver and gold to use for the cause of the truth, and do not conduct evil strife for the sake of the truth teaching. You are different in your doing, because those who sit still, remain inactive, are indulging in unknowledge and terrible things, whereas you who fight well and peacefully for the truth teaching, you are bringing down tribulation on yourselves from the unknowing ones and the indolent ones. But in yourselves you are creating love and peace, as well as consonance, harmony, and freedom. 126. Consider that the truth teaching does not bestow any levels of excellence in the knowledge and following of it, neither benevolence nor particular forgiveness. Because truly, if you want to be benevolent and forgiving, then you must create that in yourselves, as well as the level-less excellence which is common to anyone who strives for the knowledge of the truth teaching. 127. Truly, those amongst you who remain far from the truth, you will be carried off by everything evil and by all disasters, so you miss the goodness and the values of the life, because you are not striving for the truth of the primal power, creation, and its laws and recommendations, as you treat yourselves as weak ones of the life. And for you weak ones, the truth is so far away that you cannot make your way to it unless you change your attitude, mentality, and place all false teachings of fabulated, invented gods and tin gods behind your back, so that you strive to reach the real truth in front of them. If, however, you do not follow the way of the truth of the primal power, creation, and continue to persist in unknowledge of the truth, then you will continue to create the destiny in yourselves that your inner nature is a place where the shadow world, hell, resides, the fire of which will consume you. 128. And many amongst you have fallen prey to weakness, man and woman, as well as children, all of whom you teach weakness from the cradle onwards through the false teachings of the false prophets and priests and other servants, hands helpers, of fabulated, invented, thought up, gods and tin gods, so they cannot take a decision and find a way to recognize the teaching of the laws and recommendations of the primal power, creation, and to understand and follow them. 129. Truly, all your fabulated, invented gods and tin gods, as well as your false prophets and your priests and servants of gods and servants of tin gods, are unable to eliminate, eradicate, your faults that you commit, and therefore they cannot redeem your culpability which you bring down on yourselves, because the redeemers of your culpability and the eliminators, eradicators, of your faults are you yourselves. 130. And anyone who moves away, leaves, their dwelling or their country in order to stand up for, carry further, the cause of the truth in freedom and consonance, harmony, without cajoling, proselytizing, and without the weapons of Goblet and of death, but only by using the word and only letting those hear it who ask about it. You will find sufficient places of refuge and of fullness on earth amongst those who are thirsting for the truth. 131. However, whoever leaves the house or their country in order to stand up for, carry further, the teaching of the truth, the teaching of the Spirit, the teaching of the life, shall walk on the same way of modesty as the true prophets, and in doing so, make sure that he or she is not done to death by those who persecute and slander, calumniate him or her, and who are out for his or her blood. 132. And if you pass through the land, and do not explain, teach yourselves the teaching of the laws and recommendations of the wellspring of all existence, creation, or curtail the explanation, teaching, then it shall be rightful for you if you nonetheless hold to and follow the laws and recommendations. 133. If you are afraid that ones who are unknowing of the truth may assail you, because they stand up as open enemies against the truth and against you, then you shall not acquire, by procure, weapons of Goblet and of death in order to fight against them whenever possible. Instead, try to find a peaceful way of avoiding them or using words of clarity, rationality, to move them to insight, rationality, and to peace. 134. And if you as ones who have knowledge of the truth find yourselves amongst ones who have no knowledge of the truth and have to undertake a deed, work, or whatever else with them, then allow them to stand with you, undertake it together, cooperate. But take care that they do not raise up, make threats with weapons of villainy, disingenuousness, against you and against the truth teaching in order to cast you down, coerce you into their belief assumptions. And if they attempt to carry out your casting down, then put them behind you. Turn your back on them and go away. But you shall be on your guard, watchful, because their weapons of villainy, disingenuousness, can strike you again and again at any time in order to demoralize you. 135. The enemies of the truth and the enemies of the teaching of the prophets, and therefore also the enemies of the truth teaching of the laws and recommendations of the primal wellspring of all things and all life, creation, by which it is meant the confused people and its false prophets and priests and servants of gods and servants of tin gods who make their adorers into like-minded ones and believers. They like it if you do not provide yourselves with weapons of precaution and of clear-sightedness, rationality, and leave aside all your watchfulness so that they can suddenly assail you, lead you into confusion, take away, pervert your knowledge of the truth. Against the enemies of the truth, it is permitted and rightful for you to take their weapons of villainy, disingenuousness, away from them through true discernment, rationality, by striking back, countering their false words and teachings, so that they wash themselves clean and heal themselves of their illness, false belief, and lay down their weapons of villainy, disingenuousness, and slander, calumny, against the truth teaching. But at all times be on your guard, watchful, because the intrigues, guilefulness, of those who declaim against the truth and the teaching of the truth, and the teaching of the laws and recommendations of the creation are manifold in their attempts to delude the ones who have knowledge of the truth, and to turn them away from their insight into the truth teaching, so that they shall fall prey to the traps of the godliness, religion, and of the belief, assumptions, as well as of the priests and servants of gods and servants of tin gods, because truly they have disparaging, villainous, despicable methods in order to achieve their intentions, purposes. 136. And if you're learning the teaching of the prophets, the teaching of the truth, the teaching of the Spirit, the teaching of the life, and therefore the teaching of the laws and recommendations of the wellspring of the beauty creation, then remember with a prayer, invocation, edification, also your inner world, consciousness, in contemplation, meditation, at the same time, so that you align yourselves towards true love and consonance, harmony, as well as to peace and freedom in your inner nature. And do this when seated or standing, when walking or when you are on your back, on your belly, or lying on your side. And when you have finished learning, then make prayers, invocations, edification, to your inner world, consciousness, according to your need, so that its unfolding evolution may progress and everything may go well with you in all things. And carry out your prayers, invocations, edification, according to your needs, since you do not have to select specific hours for this, as you shall do for special contemplations, meditations, or initiations. 137. And never cease to search for the depths of the truth and the laws and recommendations of the primal wellspring of all truth, creation. Because if you do not do so, then you will suffer, and your inner world, consciousness, will remain unfruitful, remain fallow, And as you suffer, so also people of your kind, fellow human beings, with whom you have dealings will also suffer. However, do not hope for things of cognition which you cannot hope for, shall not experience, because if you were to gain cognitions that are beyond your discernment, understanding, then you would not become knowing, conscious, and wise, but would fall prey to confusions, consciousness confusion, sense confusions. 138. The true prophets have brought the teaching of the truth, the teaching of the Spirit, the teaching of the life to you, the teaching of the laws and recommendations of the wellspring of all the existence, creation, and its appearance, nature, so that you do not decide, determine, and fight unfairly between people of your kind, human beings, but that you join yourselves with, fall in line with the laws and recommendations as are given to you through the teaching of the prophets, so that you do not secede from the truth and do not become proponents of the ones who are unfaithful to the truth teaching. And think about the true prophets from the line of Nokodemean. They did not come to earth to one people alone, but brought the teaching of the truth, the teaching of the Spirit, the teaching of the life to all peoples of your kind, humankind, all of humanity, so that everyone may experience the truth of the wellspring of the existence, creation, and everyone may direct themselves according to its laws and recommendations. However, you have allowed that false prophets amongst you could bring delusional teachings and that you were able to fall prey to these. Therefore you were disloyal to the way of the real truth and turned to gods and tin gods and their priests and other servants, hands helpers, so that you could pray to them. And your scribes who were entrusted by the prophets with upholding the teaching by setting it down in writing, they falsified and slandered, calumniated the teaching of the true prophets, and obfuscated it, rendered it unrecognizable, in such a wise that only a few grains of real truth are contained in it. 139. Truly, the fallible scribes who falsified, slandered, calumniated, and obfuscated, rendered unrecognizable the teaching of the prophet shall be excused in spite of their disgraceful doings, because they fell prey to an erroneous assumption when they falsified, slandered, calumniated, and obfuscated, rendered unrecognizable the truth teaching in their writings due to false insight, understanding. But there were some amongst the scribes who falsified, slandered, calumniated, and obfuscated, rendered unrecognizable the teaching of the true prophets deliberately, because it is directed against their own belief, assumptions, in gods and tin gods. 140. Truly, you do not love any people of your kind, fellow human beings, who are villains and unfair ones, irresponsible ones, but ask yourselves whether you are not yourselves also villains and unfair ones, irresponsible ones, so that you do not defend yourselves if you deceive yourselves. 141. Truly, you would like to conceal your maliciousness and iniquity, unfairness, from people of your kind, fellow human beings. But you cannot keep it concealed because you again and again forge intrigues, guilefulness, openly or in secret, and do evil and unfair things, irresponsible things, of all kinds. However, all your deeds are seen through and are not approved. 142. See, you defend your maliciousness and your iniquity, unfairness, and unrighteousness, consciencelessness, your virtuelessness and your drunkenness, desire, and bad habits, vice. But you can never vindicate or defend them. Therefore you will find no advocates and no protectors amongst the righteous ones, conscientious ones, and fair ones, responsible ones, of your kind, fellow human beings. 143. When you do evil or unfair things, irresponsible things, against people of your kind, fellow human beings, or against yourselves, against your inner nature, or against your body or limbs, extremities, against life, the inner world, consciousness, or the psyche, whether it be Gewaltsamkeit, torture, or defilement, injury, or killing, then you are breaching the laws and recommendations of the wellspring of all love, creation. Therefore you will not find any calm, or any peace, or any freedom, and consonance, harmony, in yourselves, because you cannot bring forth any benevolence or any forbearance for yourselves, and so you cannot forgive yourselves for your ausgeartet doings. 144. And whoever commits an unright, that human being only commits it against himself or herself, even if others are harmed thereby, because committing unright against other human beings gives rise to harm in one's inner nature, and in addition it weighs on the admonishment, conscience, sooner or later. 145. And as you commit unright against the true prophets, so you take a decision that casts yourselves into ruin. But consider that you cannot do any harm to the true prophets even if you slander, calumniate them and their teaching, if you stalk them and try to kill them, because also the true prophets know very well how to protect themselves, according to the laws and recommendations of the wellspring of the true love. Creation 146. Even before you, the prophets brought their teaching of the truth, their teaching of the Spirit, their teaching of the life to you, and taught your forefathers and foremothers, ancestors, forebears, everything that these did not know about all the knowledge and all the wisdom. And you also do not know it, because like those before you who neglected the teaching and kind-heartedness of the prophets, so you also neglect their great kind-heartedness and the teaching because you plot, conspire, and secret talks against the truth teaching and the true prophets, together with the priests and other servants, hands helpers, of your fabulated, invented, and unsubstantial imaginary gods and tin gods. Truly, you do not conduct open talks on beneficence or kind-heartedness and bringing about peace in order to admonish the people of your kind, human beings. When you come together in talks, it is only in striving for your own pleasure and to stir one another up for battles, wars, and to bring down punishments of death and acts of Goblet, torture, on people of your kind, fellow human beings, out of hatred and revenge and retaliation, for which you fallaciously believe that a magnificent reward will be granted to you. But you are deluding yourselves vastly, because all your doings are of evil and against all laws and recommendations of the primal power creation, as have always been taught to you by the true prophets since time immemorial. 147. Whoever amongst you sets themselves against the teaching of the truth, the teaching of the Spirit, the teaching of the life, despite the fact that the right way to true existence has become clear to them, but nevertheless they follow a different way from that of the truth, they will have to follow a very difficult way, because they will cast themselves into a self-created shadow world, hell, as their own determination, decision, and burn in its fire, and the way back to the truth will be 7 times worse for them than at the time when they first found their way to the truth. 148. One day, your distant descendants will not be able to forgive you for your showing contempt to and slandering, calumniate, the teaching of the prophets and the prophets themselves and being out for their blood. And therefore your distant descendants, grandchildren, etc., will not be able to forgive you, because you are leading them into delusion and far from the truth with your false teachings, your false prophets and your priests and other servants of gods and servants of tin gods, because your false teachings reach, extend, carry themselves forwards into the farthest future and create delusion, influence. Therefore your belief of your godliness, religion, because you do not follow the teaching of the laws and recommendations of the wellspring of all life, creation, but waste away far from it and set unsubstantial, imaginary, gods and tin gods at the side of the wellspring of all life, creation. 149. Truly, whoever sets fabulated, invented, gods or tin gods or fabulated, invented, representatives, substitutes, or others at the side of the primal wellspring of all wisdom, creation, is indeed going very far into delusion. And truly there are no gods or tin gods who could be creators, originators, of the firmaments, universe, and of the earths, worlds, planets, and the heavenly lights, celestial bodies, comets, planets, moons, meteors, shooting stars, nebulae, because the creation of all things in all firmaments in the universe, and on all earths, worlds, planets, is solely due to the primal wellspring of all wisdom, creation, because truly it alone is the creative power, energy, of all things and the unmeasurable. Secret. 150. Those amongst you who have fallen prey to belief assumptions, in your priests and other servants, hands helpers of godliness, religion, and who make prayers, invocations, edification, to gods and tin gods, truly you are only calling on lifeless and unsubstantial things, imaginary non-existent things, and are thereby cursing the truth of the creation. So you are of evil and indignant ones against the truth and against the laws and recommendations of the creation. 151. And those amongst you who call on unsubstantial, imaginary gods and tin gods, you are cursing yourselves, and truly you are servants, hands helpers, of your own suffering which strikes you at all times through your own irrationality. 152. Lend your ear to the true prophets and to their teaching, because truly it is they alone who do not lead you into confusion, who do not lead you into hatred and battle war, neither to revenge and retribution, and nor to punishment that is meted out with gavolt or to killing. And it is only the true prophets who bring you the teaching of the truth of the love and harmony, of the freedom and peace, and who do not stir up vain wishes in you, and do not goad you into blindness, fanaticism, through which you kill your life, commit suicide, in order to kill many others, murderous attacks, because you are led into confusion by blind belief and have fallen prey to a hazy picture delusion. 153. Truly, you shall not cut off the ears of animals, not torment any animals, and not deface or destroy anything that is given by the wellspring of all wisdom, creation, in the firmament's universe, and on earth's world's planets. And anyone who does so nonetheless stands in friendship with evil and wreaks evident loss all around to what has been given by the wellspring of all wisdom, creation, to all life for joy and for benefit, prosperity, and for the preservation of existence. 154. Consider that false prophets and priests, as well as all other servants of gods and servants of 10 gods, and all the rest in groups who are secessionists from the truth, sectists, or those who glorify themselves as give themselves out, as give themselves airs, as divinities and heightened ones, sublime ones, or as sect leaders are fooling you with promises and stirring up desires, vices, wantonness, pathological cravings, urges, in you, and wishes of Ausartung and unright, because they are seducers, and everything that they promise is pure delusiveness. 155. And truly, if you follow the seducers, then you will find no way to escape from the darkness of your iniquity, unfairness, and unrighteousness, consciencelessness. So you will continue to founder in unknowledge of the truth, and without giving the virtues enough consideration. 156. Truly, all those amongst you who do your good deeds and are connected to the truth and the laws and recommendations of the primal wellspring creation, you will create gardens of happiness in yourselves and cultivate, grow, plants of love and of knowledge and of wisdom, and streams of joy and of well-being will flow through the garden and allow peace and freedom and consonance, harmony, to prosper therein. This garden is your inner paradise which will forever live in you, so you hold firm to it unswervingly and truthfully and care for your inner realm of pleasure, realm of the firmament paradise. 157. Whoever amongst you does not, however, create the garden of knowledge, love and wisdom, and therefore not the garden of freedom, peace and consonance, harmony, will create a shadow world, hell, with flaming, blazing fire in themselves, in their nature, which will burn you up. 158. Truly, the laws and recommendations of the fullness of the life, creation, do not go according to your wishes or the wishes of all peoples, humanity, because you and people of your kind, fellow human beings, have to fall in line with the laws and recommendations of the fullness of the life, creation, so that you do rightfully and lead a pleasing life. If you do not heed the laws and recommendations of the fullness of the life, creation, and if you do evil, then you will find neither true friends nor helpers who stand by you in openness, honesty, and those who do not call themselves your friends, you will not find any grace from them. 159. If, however, you do good deeds, whether you are man or woman or child, and if you are connected to the truth, then you will find true friends amongst people of your kind, like-minded ones, as also amongst those who are not attached to, connected to the truth of the laws and recommendations of the wellspring of the love, creation, and the teaching of the truth, the teaching of the Spirit, the teaching of the life, because they value, esteem your good deeds, and show you thanks. 160. And all of you, whether you are man or woman or child, you will build up in yourselves a pleasing, favorable realm of pleasure, realm of the firmament paradise, and you will not be aware of, feel, any unright in yourselves, not even the smallest iota of weight, because your reward is righteousness, conscientiousness, and virtuousness. 161. And who amongst you has greater knowledge and greater wisdom than you who are connected to the teaching of the truth, the teaching of the Spirit, the teaching of the life, you who do good deeds and are upright ones in your righteousness, conscientiousness, and in your virtues, and you who follow the laws and recommendations of the wellspring of the love, creation? Truly, those amongst you who are fair ones, responsible ones, and valiant in the fulfillment of your duties and your obligation, responsibility. Life has you as its special friends. 162. Truly, the primal wellspring of all grace, creation, is solely the truth of all reality, being, and the truth of all activity, existence, in the firmament's universe, on the earth's, world's, planets, and whatever is in between, outer space. And it alone also encompasses all things of the life of each creature, of the waters, the airs, the firmness, stone, rock, and everything that crawls and flies. 163. If you are searching for a decision in the laws and recommendations of the primal wellspring of all grace, creation, concerning man and woman and child, then you will find it if you are in open willingness of open sense. If your willingness, open sense, is not sufficiently skillful, educated, then rely on the teaching of the prophets, which is the teaching of the truth, the teaching of the Spirit, the teaching of the life, the teaching of the laws and recommendations of the primal wellspring of all grace, creation, in which you find the precious decision, and therefore act accordingly as is presented to you and taught to you through the truth teaching of the prophets when you have to decide about orphans, when they want to enter into a bond, want to marry, so that you give them your help for everything that they need, and act equally in good decision according to right, law, and recommendation if you have weak ones, disabled ones, amongst children, so that they may also be given equitableness, fairness, and help in all things, and so may have a good life. Also practice equitableness, approval, fairness, in all things of right and law and of recommendations for the orphans, so that they may lead an existence to the extent of everything necessary, and heed the rights of man and woman and of children, so that no unright or gavolt is done to them, and they may lead their existence rightfully in freedom and peace, and therefore in consonance, harmony, and not be starved of food or drink, and not suffer want of provision for all the things they need. 164. And if, in a bond marriage, a woman or a man fears rough treatment or unconcernedness from the other, then it shall be of rightness for both that they discuss the difficulty, problem, with one another in a seemly wise, and achieve reconciliation with one another, because reconciliation in righteousness, conscientiousness, and flawlessness, honesty, is truly the best, so that peace may be brought about. 165. And make sure that you are not full of greed and avariciousness, whether you happen to be in a bond, marriage, or if you are unbound, single, because such doing brings unpeace and unfreedom in yourselves, as well as dissonance, disharmony, and strife with people of your kind, fellow human beings. Therefore it is better for you, if you are truly versed in the laws and recommendations of the primal power of all life, creation, and follow them, so that you may turn to righteousness, conscientiousness, and to goodness. 166. Truly, it may be that no matter how greatly you may wish it, you cannot find any comprehensive equality, balance between yourselves if you are connected in a bond marriage, as man and woman, or if you are connected in a straightforward bond of inclination, lesbian homosexual bond unity, between man and man or woman and woman, because truly there cannot be a perfection in equitableness, balance, but only in approximation, relativity, proportionality. Therefore, you can only achieve a limited conditional equality balance between yourselves, and even then only if you are inclined to one another and do not leave one another in abeyance, uncertainty. And if you act together in such a wise, then your equality balance between one another will be excellent, the best. And if you do not separate and you are concerned to achieve an equality balance between yourselves, then your fullness of love and consonance, harmony, will make you independent from useless strivings about one another. And consider that if you are connected to one another in true love, then you nevertheless, all the same, have to retain your independence, free will, so that you do not fall prey to unfreedom, subservience, to the other. Truly it is both in a bond and not in a bond rightful that man and woman have their own opinion and may announce it also without inhibition, fear. And this also applies to children in such a wise that what is said shall not be punished, providing it is not of unright. 167. Truly, everything that has been created in the firmaments, universe, and on earth's, world's, planets, is the act, deed of the creation, and also its laws and recommendations by means of which you are protected in your existence if you give them ampleness, sufficiency, and you receive the teaching of the truth, the teaching of the Spirit, The teaching of the life through the true prophets, by which you come to know the teaching of the laws and recommendations of the creation, so that you may turn yourselves to it and be knowing, conscious in the truth, and so you give yourselves satisfaction. 168. The firmaments, universe, and earths, worlds, planets, and all existence are created by the truth of the laws and recommendations of the primal power creation, so that you are present existent, and you may dedicate yourselves to the duty of unfolding, evolution, of your inner world consciousness. 169. If you want to, you can keep yourselves from learning the truth teaching, but you cannot put others in your place who could bring fullness, sufficiency, to the learning of the truth teaching and to the unfolding, evolution, of your inner world consciousness, for you learning for you. 170. Whoever amongst you desires the reward of this world may consider that the reward here below is always measured according to your conduct, behavior, and how your deeds and words are evaluated. 171. And those amongst you who are firm in upholding, maintaining equitableness, fairness, in righteousness, conscientiousness, and in the virtues, you are witnesses to the truth, even if it is directed against yourselves or against your parents and siblings or against your children and relatives. 172. Whether you may be rich or poor, truly you all have the same rights and duties and obligation, responsibility, in all things whatever you do. Therefore do not pursue base desires, vices, wantonness, pathological cravings, urges, so that you will always be capable, at any time and in all things, of acting according to equitableness, seemly, commensurate, modest, fair. And if you keep secret the truth in any things, if you falsify it or eschew it, then consider that it will push through to the light of day in good time, and will accuse you as liars and slanderers, calumniators, or as those withdrawing from, eschewing, the truth. 173. All of you, turn to the laws and recommendations of the primal wellspring of all things, creation, which are given to you by the teaching of the true prophets, which they reveal to you and already revealed to your forefathers and foremothers, ancestors, forebears, so that you do not go into confusion in your existence and do not do unright. 174. Consider that if you become knowing, conscious, in the truth and then fall away from it again, but then come back to the truth a second time and to its teaching, and then fall away from it once more, that your unknowledgeness will rain down over you to such an extent that you will not find your way back to the truth, and you will wander on the way of ruin without forgiveness, directed by your false intentions, thoughts, and feelings. 175. Truly, those amongst you who are hypocrites, you yourselves are imposing a painful punishment on yourselves in your inner nature and in your psyche, because disguise, hypocrisy, makes you into outlaws, ostracized ones, outcasts, amongst people of your kind, fellow human beings. 176. And those amongst you who take unfair ones, irresponsible ones, and unrighteous ones, conscienceless ones, and depraved ones, ones without virtue, as your friends, are you by any chance looking for honor under their hands with them? But consider true honor is only ever with the fair ones, responsible ones, and righteous ones, conscientious ones, and with the virtuous ones. 177. You hear that the teaching of the prophets has been given to you, the teaching of the laws and recommendations of the primal power, creation, revealed by the true prophets, as you hear it. But those amongst you who do not want to learn the truth, but rather deny and mock it, truly you do not want to hear the truth teaching, but you sit with other deniers and mockers of the truth, and do not want to pass over to a debate about the truth with them, so that you may not become knowing in the truth. 178. Those amongst you who are waiting for a good evaluation of yourselves, no success will be granted to you if you do not go hand in hand with the truth and do not strive for the truth. Because truly, even if you prove to be the stronger ones in existence, whilst however guarding yourselves against the truth and not allowing it to become your own, then you will be the losers and will only receive bad evaluations of yourselves. Truly, you decide over yourselves, and you will never give yourselves the opportunity to prevail if you do not integrate, fall in line with the real truth as is given by the laws and recommendations of the primal wellspring of all equitableness, creation. 179. The hypocrites amongst you, together with your false prophets and priests and with other worshippers of gods and worshippers of tin gods, are attempting to delude and deceive people of your kind, fellow human beings. So you lead them to pray to fabulated, invented gods and tin gods and people of your kind, human beings, who appear as God equivalents and heightened ones, sublime ones, and as representatives, substitutes of gods and tin gods, but with your delusion and your deceit and your prayers, invocations, edifications. You are merely standing there so that people of your kind, human beings, may see you, and you may shine before them in order to mislead them into the untruth, whilst you yourselves do not think one iota about the real truth. 180. Truly, there are many amongst you who sway to and fro between the truth and the untruth, and between this and that, and belong neither to the truth nor to the untruth. Therefore you are always threatened with casting yourselves into ruin, because you do not find the way to the truth and to reality. 181. All those amongst you, you can give yourselves an evident proof of the truth only to yourselves, out of your inner nature, if you find the truth in yourselves through your own investigation, researching. Although this will only be of rightness if you keep away from the belief, assumptions, in gods and tin gods which you are persuaded into by the godliness, religion, and its priests and other servants in erroneous assumption and in enticement. 182. Truly, those amongst you who are hypocrites, you are with no doubt creating a deep firing pit in yourselves in which you burn yourselves, and you will not find any helpers to rescue you from the blaze. 183. But those amongst you who are sorry and better yourselves and turn away from your disguise, hypocrisy, and learn to hold yourselves sincerely and firmly to the truth and its teaching, you belong to those who receive a good reward in themselves, because joy and happiness and therefore love, consonance, harmony, are current, present in them. And those amongst you who are sincere and knowing, conscious, in the truth, you give your good reward of love and consonance, harmony, of freedom and peace also to people of your kind, fellow human beings, through which a new good reward will be granted to you. 184. And consider the truth of the laws and recommendations of the primal power, creation, and that no punishments emanate from them. Therefore you shall be thankful, and shall not yourselves bring about any punishments, neither against yourselves nor against people of your kind, fellow human beings. Therefore recognize the laws and recommendations of the primal power, creation, because they alone are included in equitableness, fairness, and true love, in contrast to the laws and recommendations that you yourselves make and which demand acts of Goblet, torture, and killing, death penalty, as well as revenge and retaliation and battle war, which are entirely unrightful. 185. It contradicts the truth of the laws and recommendations of the wellspring of all existence, creation, and therefore of the true teaching of the prophets if you do unright, if you steal and rob, if you plunder and lie and deceive, if you slander and calumniate, if you practice amongst yourselves acts of Goblet, torture, or other Goblet, and killing as a punishment, and in battles, wars, or anywhere else. 186. And it is unrightful for you to make unseemly speeches openly, in public, or in secret, whether you happen to be in the right or in the unright, because the word and speaking only befit the dignity of appropriate seemliness. 187. If an unright happens to one amongst you, then speak out for him or her in truth and equitableness, fairness. But do not debase yourselves by making unseemly remarks and speeches for him or her, because they are not only unbecoming, improper, inappropriate, of dignity, but they also cause harm to the one to whom unright is done. 188. Whether you announce a good deed or conceal, it is a matter of your attitude. But it is better to do good deeds in secret, so you do not show conceit. Stand out, raise yourselves, before people of your kind, fellow human beings. Because truly doing good deeds in secret is full of goodness and dignity, but announcing the good deed detracts from its value and seriousness. 189. If harm is done to you through an evil deed or by defamatory statement, calumny, then forgive the evildoer, so that neither hatred nor the pathological craving for revenge or retaliation may come alive in you. Thus truly be the redeemers of the infamous actions, crimes, of those who do harm to you, lie to you and deceive you, or slander, calumniate you. Do not be like the unfair ones, irresponsible ones. Thus do not repay evil with evil or harm with harm, so that you may always be of good admonishment, conscience, and can enjoy your gladness and honesty. 190. And truly, those amongst you who make a differentiation between the true teaching of the prophets, which is the teaching of the laws and recommendations of the primal wellspring, creation, and existence life. You do not understand the truth and will not find the way to it because you are attempting to strike a way in between them, middle way. 191. But truly, those of you who wish to take a way in between, middle way, you are preparing disparaging joylessness in yourselves because there is no way in between, middle way, between the real truth and the unreal untruth. 192. Those amongst you who are knowing conscious about the truliness of the primal wellspring, creation, and the truliness of the prophets and their teaching, you are striving for the truth and equitableness, fairness. And therefore do not make any differentiation amongst people of your kind, human beings, as created creations, human beings, but only in their bearing behavior. 193. And truly, those of you who are fair to people of your kind, human beings, as a created creation, human being, you receive for this in yourselves a good reward of love from people of your kind, love for human beings, love for the next one. 194. Even long before your time, many of your forefathers and foremothers, ancestors, forebears, demanded of the true prophets that they should give you the writing of their teaching of the truth, teaching of the Spirit, teaching of the life, so that they would have it before their eyes time and time again. And truly, several of the true prophets from the line of Nokodemeon, the originator of the truth teaching, look for people amongst you who are able to write, so that they should set down, record, the teaching of the truth, the teaching of the Spirit, the teaching of the life in writing for all coming time, and for all descendants, children of children, etc. But truly, throughout all of time, all the scribes entrusted with this task falsify and slander, calumniate, the truth teaching of the prophets, so that all words are twisted, distorted, and rendered unrecognizable. But this had already been foreseen at an early stage, so that the scribes entrusted with the task were encouraged to report, write down, the teaching of the prophets conscientiously, but they never paid attention to this. But the confidence is maintained that the teaching will after all be recorded recognizably by responsibility-conscious ones. Although there is no great confidence in this respect, because those who know how to write always have the sense of incorporating their own explanations, interpretations, into the writing and form it according to their opinion. Truly, it was chosen, decided, that in the new time the scrolls of the teaching of the prophets will be set down, recorded, by the one who is probably the most versed in writing and the last prophet from the line of Nokodemeon, in his own writing and in an understandable language for all those who are looking for the way to the truth, so that they may find it. 195. Consider at all times that there is no one amongst the people, neither man nor woman, who, if given the task of setting something down, can authentically reflect the given word of the truth teaching, because each one feels the urge to perpetuate, immortalize their own views, thoughts, imaginations, and explanations, interpretations, which explains why they defile, falsify, the word that is announced to them, dictated word, and why only slanders, calumnies, and lies as well as delusions and distortions, falsifications, are retained as handed-down knowledge, tradition chronicle. However, this will not be the case in the new time, because the last prophet from the line of Nokodemeon, comprehensively fulfilling his matter of admonishment, matter of conscience, matter of honor, duty, will set down, record, the teaching of the truth of the laws and recommendations of the primal wellspring of all love, creation, and therefore the teaching of the truth, the teaching of the Spirit, the teaching of the life in his own writing and without defilement, falsification, in many scrolls, so that everything may be of permanence. 196. And truly, the last prophet from the line of Nokodemeon will make the teaching of the truth, the teaching of the Spirit, the teaching of the life obvious, understandable, to you in the far-off time, far descendants, so that there will no longer be any doubt in the understanding, and you will no longer worship gods and tin gods. The signs, marvels, evidence of the true prophet of the new time will be seen and recognized, understood, by his like-minded companions, so that they will carry his signs, evidence, and the teaching into the time to come, future, so that in the far-off time there will be true love and freedom amongst the peoples, humankind of earth, as well as peace and consonance, harmony. 197. And the true prophet of the new time will live high on the top of the mountain that will resemble a horseshoe, and he will carry forth the signs, evidence of peace, freedom, love, and consonance, harmony, and the teaching of the truth, the teaching of the Spirit, the teaching of the life throughout the whole earth, so that his signs, evidence marvels, and the teaching will be clear to all people of your kind, humankind. And they conclude a bond agreement with the truth of the laws and recommendations of the primal wellspring of all wisdom creation. 198. Step through the door of the cognition into the truth teaching so that you no longer neglect and contravene the laws and recommendations of the primal wellspring of all existence creation. Therefore you shall conclude a bond agreement with the truth and do rightfully in all things. 199. Enter into a bond contract with the truth and do not break it like your forefathers and foremothers, ancestors, forebears, did when they denied the signs, evidence, of the truth of the primal wellspring of all existence, creation, and iniquitously slandered, calumniated the teaching of the prophets and attempted to kill the prophets. Truly, do not be like them who carelessly neglected their benevolence and sealed up their understanding. 200. Do not break the bond agreement with the truth of the laws and recommendations of the primal wellspring of all existence, creation, once you have concluded it, so that you do not once again start to misconstrue the signs, evidence, of the truth and become unknowing again, and do not turn yourselves to gods and tend gods once more.